Okay, so now we've talked about the product group, we've talked about the field. Now we're going to tie it all together, and we're going to explain to you how we do the business plan for the company and how it all hangs together. Okay, because we've given you different parts of the organization. Now we're going to tie it all together. Now, this may seem a little bit like accounting, because we're going to describe, how we put the business plan together, but there's some lessons that we want to get to. So bear with us through the accounting details till we get to the end. The main thing in putting together the business plan is the business plan has to be consistent. Okay? In other words, you can't have a business plan for the product group and a business plan for the field and have those two things be inconsistent. You can't have the field saying we're going to deliver $400 million in revenue if the product group is expecting $500 million in revenue, right? Those two plans better agree. So let's look at how the product group builds up its plan. We saw that the field builds its up by adding up all the teams from all the geographies. So the product group does it the other way. The product group looks at each product line. So at the beginning of the year, the Rose team says, well, what do we sell? Well, we sell product licenses and customer support. We don't sell PS. We don't do PS, right? So we have a certain number of dollars that we'll sign up to. And then the Apex team does the same thing. They sign up to a certain number of dollars. And then the Clearcase team does the same thing. Okay? And you can add this up across all of the products. Now, it turns out that I think Rational University is one of the exceptions, in that Rational University not only has license and support, but they also have a small amount of PS. Somebody on Tuesday corrected me on this. So apparently we do have some PS delivered in the product group, but it's very, very small, and it's limited to that one business unit. But let's forget about that for a second, just for simplicity. So if I add this all up, I can add up across all the products, all the product licenses plus customer support, right? Now, actually there's a detail. There's just one detail here that's maybe a little disconcerting, and that is, actually when we sell the products, we sell them a little differently. We sell something called PIM, which stands for Product License Plus Initial Maintenance, which is the first year of support. And then we sell Customer Support Renewals, which is customer support for years 2 through N. So what we basically do is bundle the first year of support with the product, because we want to make sure that everybody is on support the first year. But you can see that if we add up the PIM plus the renewals, that comes out to be the same thing as product licenses plus customer support. It's just taking the first year of the support and putting it in with the license. So don't get confused by this. If we were to add up all of the licenses and customer support across all the products, we get something that I call the PG number, right? This is all the money that the product group thinks is going to come in, right? What does this number have to equal? Well, it doesn't equal the field number exactly, but it equals this part of the field number, right? This number here, added up over all the field teams, has to be the same as this number here added up over all the products. Now, this is a very, very interesting concept, if you think about it, because those two numbers have to come out to be the same. But we get those numbers two different ways. We get it by adding up all these field teams, independent of what product mix each of them sells, and each product team is estimating its number independent of what geography it comes from. So you can see that, that's an interesting exercise to come up with a consistent business plan. And yet we do this every year. Every year we make it come out so that the product group number and the field number is constructed such that the product portion of the field quota exactly matches the product group quota. Now, you can see lots of strange things that can happen. For example, everybody can make their quota, right? But some field teams might be overperforming and some underperforming. So you could see that you could make quota, but not have everybody make quota, right? And the same thing for the product groups. The entire product group could make its number, but some products might overperform and some products might underperform. So you have that dynamic as well. The most important thing I want to abstract from this discussion is this notion of who owns the quota. Okay? Because there's this misconception that the field owns the quota. Does the field own the quota? Well, the field is certainly compensated in part on quota, very directly. Field teams that make their quota are compensated better than field teams that don't make their quota. They have a very strong correlation there. We don't. But we own the quota just as much as they do. Because let me ask you this question. Can the product group make its quota if the field misses? Why not? It's the same number, right? You know, assuming that the field makes its PS number right on, this number has to equal this number. So if the field doesn't make its number, neither do we. So the way we need to look at this quota is it's a shared responsibility. The field doesn't own the quota. It's a rational company quota. And the product group owns the quota just as much as the field does. Now, what are some critical business assumptions for this to all work? For our model to work successfully, we do need a predictable stream of new releases because the field people are in there talking to their customers all the time, and, you know, they need to have new things to talk to them about. And the products do need to get better over time. Quality is very, very important in this model. And why is that? Well, the very first thing that happens when we ship a poor quality product is after a little while, the phones start ringing off the hook in customer support. Okay? And then Beth Friday, who runs customer support, has to go to her boss and say, I need more recs. I need to hire more people in customer support because the phone queues are getting too long. So that's the first effect, is the phones ring off the hook, which is not a good thing. But there's a much, much more serious problem, and that has to do with the tech reps. Okay? When we ship a product and the customer is not being successful using that product, what is the response of the tech rep? The tech rep is going to move heaven and earth to make that customer successful using that product. They're going to try and find workarounds. They're going to try and do anything they can. And I sometimes call it duct taping the product in the field. Okay? And you want them to do that. Okay? I mean, you want the tech reps to be committed to making customers successful. You recruit for that, right? But let me ask you the following question. What is the tech rep not doing when he's duct taping the product? Right? More specifically. Okay, there's three ways we get shortchanged here. First of all, he's giving the customer a lot more CS, a lot more customer support than the customer's paying for, right? The customer's paying for customer support based on the product's working most of the time. The product is not working most of the time. We're doing more customer support than the customer's paying for. The second place we get shortchanged is the tech reps don't have enough cycles left over to do paid PS. So billable PS goes down because there's not enough time to do it, right? And then what's the third thing that happens? Tech reps can't do pre-sales. Remember, it's the same tech reps who do post-sales and pre-sales. So if the tech rep is, spending day and night trying to make the product work at customer A, does he have time to go out and visit prospect B and do pre-sales? No. And this actually happens, okay? We run into periods of time when the tech reps are so swamped trying to support products that are not quite there that they don't have time to do pre-sales. And guess what happens? Revenues go down, okay? Because if you don't do the pre-sales, you don't close the deals. And that's why product quality is so important. Our model depends critically on the tech reps being able to balance pre-sales and post-sales. And if we make the post-sales obligations too onerous, we don't get to do pre-sales. And it has a direct financial impact on the company. So I need to make that point very strongly. Now, obviously, we really depend on the field making its number because our ability to hire people depends on how we're funded, and that depends on meeting bookings and profit expectations. How's the product group funded? Okay? Well, that's very simple. If you look at the product group number in the plan for any year, we get a percentage of that, usually about 20%. So if this product group number is 500 million, we get 100 million to run the product group. What do we do with that 100 million? Well, you subtract off, marketing, and then each BU gets an amount in proportion to how much quota they've taken. Okay? So, ClearCase, which usually has a pretty large quota, gets a fairly large chunk of the budget. Okay? Now, the thing that's interesting about this is that most of the budgetary flex is small because all of the costs are people related. It's salary, benefits, travel, those are all related to headcount. So about the only discretionary expense you have is marketing and advertising and promotions. And once you remove that flex from the budget, if we start to not make our number, it's going to affect headcount. So this is all very real. Now, people often ask me in the product group, well, it's okay to say that we jointly own the quota, but we don't go out and make the sales calls. So, how can we be responsible for something we don't control? Okay? And my answer is, well, you do have an impact on it. Okay? You have an impact through the quality of your products, whether your products are easy to sell and easy to support. Remember that the field operates in kind of this free market situation. They get to choose what products they sell on the margin to their customers. After the customer's needs are satisfied, if they have any additional money, the sales teams pick what's the next product they're going to try to sell. And they're going to take the path of least resistance. So what that means is the products that are easier to sell and easier to support are the ones that they're going to, on the margin, sell more of.